Salam and welcome back everybody to our podcast, Unapologetic, the Third Narrative.
Our original and authentic initiative in light of the war in Israel and Gaza.
A platform where we will share our identities, views, and experience from the ground.
أميرة
كل عام وانت بخير.
وانت بخير. رمضان كريم.
رمضان كريم يا ربي.
عاد علينا وعليك بالصحة والعافية.
آمين.
And to all our English-speaking audience, Ramadan Kareem. And hopefully this month will be a month of blessing, a month of prosperity, of even like, on a religious connotation, self-search, soul-searching.
Spiritual, meaningful, filled with gratefulness and giving.
Which is exactly what we're going to be talking about today, the month of Ramadan on this episode.
I honestly miss this dynamic, only me and you. Like we've been having guests very frequently, and I really miss just like our talks. No, just the dynamic between me and you. And I feel like we're allowed to be more vocal when we have a third person. It's more like we need to give them their space. They need to talk. So it's nice to be back.
We're interviewing others, and here we're like dashing out our own views, kind of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And it can just, it's me and you, so we can just like chat and things can come up and God knows like where the conversation can end.
Yeah.
Which I've missed a lot. And especially on this topic. I mean, I don't like, even up to the point now that we're recording, I don't know what you're going to say. And you don't know much about what I'm going to say about, our perspective experiences of Ramadan, growing up and all these things.
Specifically because we had a conversation about religion, and I think people would love to have to listen to this dynamic of, first of all, what is Ramadan?
Yeah, I think it's important to start with that.
Okay, the basic definition is Ramadan is the holiest month of the year for Muslims, where Muslims fast from sunrise until sunset, more specifically from dawn prayer until Maghrib prayer. And fasting means fasting from food, and for all the Western folks, yes, not even water, from sunrise till sunset for 30 days straight. It's also fasting from swearing, from gossiping, any sexual activity. What else?
I don't know about all that, but but it's, you're right, and this is actually kind of like the misunderstanding, I feel like, of today's world of Ramadan and fasting, and what fasting really is, of fasting your tongue, as they say, like in Arabic, som al-lisan, like you're supposed to not be cursing and saying bad words and talking like badly about people and all these things. So it's not just food and drinks, which sometimes is misconception. We would call it jour klab. If you're like fasting and you're not really, if you're fasting only on food and water and you're not, doing the whole actual fast, like the term that like me and my friends was like, when we were young, we'd say it's jour klab. It's like
starving a dog.
Yeah, it's like starving a dog. You're not really fasting. You're just starving. And it's also like important to note, like you mentioned at the beginning, that it's like the month of fasting. It's very important to also mention that it's an actual name of a month in the Muslim calendar.
Same way you have April, this is the month of Ramadan.
Exactly. So in the Muslim calendar, which is a lunar calendar, we have different names for different months that move on different pace.
Same with the Jewish calendar, no?
And the Jewish calendar, if I'm not mistaken, the difference between ours and the Jewish is that the Jewish has
a correction,
a mix between the lunar and the solar, while ours is base solar, or the opposite way around. I'm like, I need to like.
No, ours moves because Ramadan moves the entire month, like the entire year. Like every single year, Ramadan
starts
think
earlier, 11 to
days.
14 days earlier than the year before.
Okay, the devil's in the details. And I think that there's a correction, like the Jewish calendar, because Jewish holidays usually come, like they move, but they're usually in the same
So
range.
I think it's because they have a mix between the solar and the lunar. And so exactly just like in the Jewish calendars, you have different names that are from the solar or Georgian calendar. So that's the same thing for Muslims. It's called, that's the name of the month. Like you say, April, it's called Ramadan. And yeah, funny thing is that every year it starts a bit earlier. Actually, me and my friend did the calculation a couple of days ago, because when I was young, like really young, when I was in elementary school, it was the easiest fast of all time.
Because it's in winter.
Because it was in winter. And in winter, it was like prime winter in like, December, where
the day finishes earlier.
Like sunset is like 5:30, right? Like, so on the weekend as a kid, you like wake up nude, you watch a couple of TV shows, and like it's already fast. Like you're already breaking the fast. So it's super easy. And we're like trying to calculate how long it will take for us to get back to that. So it takes 33 years.
Wow.
For the whole circle. Yeah, if you calculate on the average of 11 days.
I've always been horrible at math.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about this.
Literally, we sat down and we calculated it. Just because we talked about like, fasting as kids.
So you're almost 33. How old were you? Hold up.
Yeah.
I'm bad at math.
Yeah, I'm turning 32 soon. But like, yeah, it's every 33 years. So I was 10, roughly. So it'll be when I'm 43. So in 10 years from now it's in March. So, if it's 11, so in 10 years, we'll go back 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember as a kid, fasting in Ramadan and having that, like always looking at the clock and, every day it shifts and hoping that, it will be as short of a fast as possible. What else do you remember of Ramadan? Like the fasting, the days. Let me repeat myself. What's like the one thing that comes to mind when like I say Ramadan to you about like Ramadan in general? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
So many things. So one last fact, and we'll continue to add facts throughout this entire episode as soon as something like pops into our minds, and we'll add, is, like I said, it's the holiest month of the year for us, which means kind of like you get more credit, I guess, for the good deeds that you do. And it's supposed to be like literally the month of giving, and you're supposed to actually like give throughout the month and at the end of the month. And it's also the month that Muslims go to their pilgrimage to Mecca, to Hajj. And that's also part of the reason why it's such a holy month. And Hajj is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, where you're supposed to, like if you can, like every single Muslim, male or female, every single person who physically, mentally, financially can go to Hajj is supposed to go to Hajj.
Like at least once in their lifetime.
In their lifetime.
One more thing about it is actually also like the significance of why the fasting happens in this month, of all months of the year. Like why Ramadan, right? Because of, Laylatul Qadr.
Yeah.
That's what started it all. That, according to Islam, the first time that the Prophet received the word of God and received the Quran was in the night known as Laylatul Qadr, which is, I don't know how to like do it in English, like the night of destiny or something like that.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. It sounds actually really cool in English.
The night of destiny. And it's equivalent, they say this isn't in the, well, they say Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr, right?
It's like one night that's...
so if you fast Laylatul Qadr, it's kind of like repenting on like maybe 1,000 months of your not fasting, or 1,000 months of your sins. So to put it short, it's a very holy month.
And on that night was the day, like it's the day that the... Islam was brought to the Prophet, yes. And because it's never known which day, it's usually one of the last 10 days of the month. It's one of the last.
That's 10 why the
days.
Last 10 days are the most even holy. More. Yep. Yeah, you're right. And there's these signs that aren't. Like, I don't think they're in the like. I think religious scholars kind of try to depict from the Quran and descriptions of the day, which day it will be, where the moon is going to be, how the sunrise is, yada, yada, yada. But there's no actual day of which day is the night of destiny.
Yeah, they announce it, and it's like, maybe it's like more symbolic, I think. But that's the reason why we have this month. And fasting as just the act of fasting is not something that's so, strange or or I don't know, atypical for other religions, because fasting is such a prevalent method, I would say, of prayer and connecting religiously, just like we have in Yom Kippur. Just we have certain sects
Easter.
of Christianity that fast and don't eat meat.
Yeah.
I know me and my Christian friends in school, in elementary school.
Your fasting is cooler than mine.
We would like compare. No, we would compare who struggles more. We were like, we're fasting 30 days, and they were like, well, I'm fasting 40 days. I was like, well, you can have water.
It's like, then, yeah, you can have chocolate.
It's like, it's about like, you know, oh, we can't eat meat and we can't eat like any dairy products for the whole month. It's like trying to figure out who's suffering more.
Yeah. As human beings, we tend to do that a lot, even as kids. It's sad.
And surprisingly, I don't know why there's such a perception that like I'm so anti-religion, but no, I used to be like, I remember my childhood was, Ramadan for me. When I think of Ramadan, I think of my childhood, honestly. I don't think much of today's life, you can say, as much as I think about my upbringing. Because that's when, for me, Ramadan meant the most. Way more than it did for me in the past maybe 10 years or more than that. There was something more holy and not even like just holy, a happy, a spiritual. There was a vibe and energy about Ramadan that I do not recollect, and I don't see, and I haven't felt that bond.
Okay.
For so long. Like when I was a kid, you would go and buy the fanus, like the little Ramadan lamp, and you buy the crescent moon, and even the fasting, like it was a thing that we're getting up, like my dad would wake us up at like 4 a.m. before because fasting starts at sunrise, but you can eat before. So a lot of people would get up before sunrise prayer happens and you eat.
Yeah, it's actually sunnah, like the sunnah is the followings and sayings of what the Prophet used to say and do. So it's said that the Prophet used to eat before the dawn prayer. So usually families, especially those who have kids, wake up waking up in the middle of the crack of dawn, even before the crack of dawn, like
drowsy.
At 4 a.m., not knowing where you are, and just like eating for the sake of eating because someone tells you that that's what you're supposed to do because you're asleep.
And we would put a whole table out there, omelets and
omelets and like deep fried stuff, like cauliflower and chips and stuff. Yeah, so people don't lose weight in Ramadan.
It's true. I remember when I was in high school in the U.S., because I did an exchange year in my junior year of high school, and as soon as I got to the U.S., it was Ramadan, roughly very early on, I remember, and I remember the first thing one girl, one of the first classes I ever had, one of my first days, and she just asked asked me where I'm from or something like this, and something around food, and I said I'm fasting, and the first thing was oh, dude, does that help you lose weight a lot? I'm like, yeah, no. We eat way more because of that.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, listen, that's not the meaning of it. It's not supposed to go all on out.
It's quite the opposite. You're supposed to be more humble.
Yeah. I remember just yesterday, my friend asked me, it was like, so what do you do during Ramadan? And I was like, and before I even started, and it was like, you don't eat much during Ramadan. You're supposed to break your fast on a date and some yogurt. Isn't that right? And I was like, wow, yes, that is true. Not traditionally, but again, going back to the sunnah, to what the Prophet used to do is to break his fast on a date and yogurt or milk or some sort of dairy. And that's exactly what they do in Mecca when they break their fast every single day, when they go to the pilgrimage. But then when she asked me, I was like, no, it's a full out feast.
People
every single day.
Which is what pushed me away, for me, for instance.
It's more like commercializing Ramadan. It's like how do we gain more profit? It's commercializing the same way it's commercialize Christmas and any other holiday where they stock, like businesses stock up on their product and they want to sell their product. Sales, Ramadan sales, where it's actually the contrary, things become more expensive. It's just a delusion of a sale. So that's where it comes from. Like you have soup every single day, a new kind of soup. 2 types of salads at least, a main and a side, and like so much food goes to waste, unfortunately.
And my issue with that is like, like you would have leftovers, and like a lot of families the next day they will make another new dish.
Yeah.
And it becomes an issue of kind of like prestige and like, like show off, and like people posting pictures of their, family tables and things like that. That kind of like, me looking at it as a young adult, looking at how, Ramadan is being portrayed, and I'm becoming more aware, and I'm like, this is not, what I grew up thinking about what Ramadan is, or like, the countless people who don't fast their tongues, for instance, and they do like not eat and drink, but like they do so much else in Ramadan in the same time, which is like, I don't know, like Ramadan for me lost a bit of that magic that it did. Like,
that it had.
When I was a kid, not only that I like fasted, I used to also like do so after the fast, there's another tradition of the prayer of Taraweeh, which is basically
extra prayers.
It's an extra prayer of calming the soul, I would say. Like you pray after you've eaten, after the sunset prayer, you get, if you're in the mosque, you eat a date and maybe a cup of water and a milk, and you go like home, you eat, and then you come back to the mosque, and then you have another prayer, which is like the like kind of like a relaxing, like kind of a meditation after eating.
Yeah, it goes prayer. That's the thing with prayer. It's repetition. You repeat and you repeat. It's like breath work, but with actions.
And I used to do that every single day. Like me and my neighbors, my immediate neighbors, we would like, shout to each other from each other's balconies, because we also see each other like standing on the balconies before the prayer for breaking the fast, because we're all waiting to hear the prayer from the mosque, so we know we will eat. So we're all standing on the balconies. And then we eat, and after we're done, we're all standing on the balconies shouting for each other, okay, let's go for Taraweeh. And we would go every day for Taraweeh. And like, that was my passion. Like, I loved that prayer specifically. And yeah, it just doesn't have that anymore. I don't know, like, what about you? Like, did you do Taraweeh? What?
So I think something that we have in common is that we not just, I would say, I had a very traditional religious upbringing. I think both of us had a very spiritual connection to our religion when we were younger. The same thing as you, like I would feel it. Like when I would pray, I remember like, khushu', which means when you're so into it that you cry. So I would feel all of that. I was also like, and not because of force, like my parents were traditional, but they weren't that religious. I guess there's like the good side and the bad side of memories. The good side, again, is the spiritual. It was every single person, regardless in the family, regardless of their schedule, regardless of their work, would be there at the dinner table during iftar when we break our fast. So that was nice. Then the bad side of it is the food, like you said. I guess it stems a lot from family trauma, because everyone, especially the people who smoke, specifically the men, are so irritable and get so angry. And I remember my dad, he would just be angry for no reason because he couldn't smoke, he couldn't drink his coffee, and he would be like
groggy all day.
Yeah, he would be like grumpy and stuff, which also isn't part of the spirit of Ramadan. So that and a lot of like family fights would happen during Ramadan. It's because everyone is so irritable. They're just waiting, like it's like poking a bear. So that's that part. And I admit, as I got older, the magic kind of slipped away. I stopped feeling that like it's Ramadan, but it's still special to me because I view spirituality, your connection to God, the universe, the greater power, nature, whatever you want to call it, is so personal. It's so like between you and that person, and people can see you pray. People can see you the way you dress, but people don't actually know if you're fasting or not. It's a secret that you hold. You can act like you're fasting, but it's something that, like, it's so personal. Like, I cannot be fasting and no one could know. I could be like eating whenever I want. And I guess now I just see it as a relationship between me and myself, me and my faith. So it's still special. It lost its spark. So as a lot of things, as you grow up, they lose their spark. Even chocolate doesn't taste as sweet as it did as a kid. So that's it for me. What about you?
Wait, question. Did you guys used to do the tongue thing when you were... So, yes. For the audience, the tongue thing is...
It's not just the tongue thing, but continue.
Like, at least on the tongue thing is like, you know, because you said like it's kind of like your own personal thing, if you're fasting or not. And kids would try to figure out if others are fasting by like asking, you ask another kid to stick their tongue out, and if their tongue is white color, because they're fasting because they haven't put anything in their mouth all day, and that was like a thing that we had.
Yeah, it's like let me see your tongue. Let me see your tongue.
Take out your tongue.
I think it comes from because you start fasting depending on the family, I guess, and depending on the kid. You're supposed to start the fast when you become of age. Whether that's a girl or a boy, that's when you actually start being accountable for your action, etc. It's the same for every religion, I assume. Some parents are more strict and some parents are less strict. So people would be like some kids would go to school fasting and others would not. And some, like myself, would go to a mixed school. So there were Christians. So the temptation was very high to like fast or not. And also the pressure to stay fasting is very high. So the tongue thing was a big thing.
Was that also in like later years? Because here's the dynamic for me. In elementary school, it was like most kids fasted. It was a weird dynamic. So in elementary school, most of the Muslim kids fasted, and I used to fast like it was like a given. And then moving to middle school, high school, I remember that most kids didn't fast. But I think that's like something that we had a bit more in the north that I'm not sure it's the same in Jerusalem.
I think it is the same, but let me first of all, from a philosophical point of view, it's like when you grow up and you discover this thing called choice. And it's like, I have control. I can choose. I can fast or not, and no one can force me. That kind of like power that can either control you to have no power at all and want to submit to like religion or family needs and whatever, or the exact opposite. So I think it makes sense that when you were younger, you didn't know that you had a choice. And then when you grew up, you kind of like, everyone starts thinking, it's like, oh, I don't have to fast. Like, no one's watching me. No one knows.
I remember we made fun of the kids who did fast.
Yeah,
we became horrible at it. when it was quite the opposite thing when we were young. When we were like kids, it was like, oh, how are you not fasting? And even though it's like supposedly less pressure on kids.
Yeah, because you're a kid.
Because you're a kid, and you can do it when you're older, and you don't have to do it as a young kid. But like, I don't know. I remember like all of us were like very eager to fast. Here's one story. Obviously, and I'll say it also for the sake of our audience. Like we have, so Ramadan is the month. The actual holiday is that what happens after Ramadan, which is Eid al-Fitr.
Yeah, I guess it's important to mention that Ramadan is not a holiday.
That's the actual holiday.
It's a month of worship.
It's a month of It's a whole month. So you can't be on a holiday for a month. It's a month of worship. And after that, you have 3 days of Eid al-Fitr. And Fitr is like from also like the same verb that comes from iftar and fitr, which is like derives from the word of like breakfast, basically.
Breaking your fast.
And that's why like iftar is when we break the fast, and Eid al-Fitr is when we end the whole month of fasting. And we have like the holiday cookies that we have for Eid, the ones that are ka'k ma'moul or ka'k b'ajwe, or different names that we have, which is basically doughs with date pastry on the inside.
Yeah.
And I used to love those as a kid. And I remember one time when I was like, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, and I could like, I got home from school and I could smell it all the way from outside, like the smell of the baked. And you know, like in Islam, there's a concept named naswi. Like when you when you forget that you're even fasting, and that happens, like, you know, sometimes,
especially in the beginning,
you forget that you're like fasting. You forget, like, you know, your normal thing is to just go and grab a cup of water, and that happens to people sometimes. It's just out of like forgetting that you're fasting. And I remember my mom was making cookies, and I'm like, oh, this is my favorite. And you know, I was a kid, so I was like, it's my own game of like ducking under the table. I was like, it's a whole mission. I'm going to the kitchen. I'm going to sneak under the table while she's baking and everything. She's not going to notice me. She finally realized like there's so many cookies disappeared from the table. She just looks down. She sees me like under the table, just like eating cookies,
like,
shoving them on. It's like, Ibrahim, what are you doing? I thought you're fasting. And I just remember like holding the cookie in my hand and like, you know, half like bit it in my mouth. And I just like stared at her and just like started crying. Like, how could I? I forgot. And this is so terrible. But yeah, that's one of my like favorite memories.
I remember not that I was very disciplined as a child. I didn't forget. I don't have any like memories like those, but I do remember, like, you talk about the tongue. I do remember like this. Did you have this?
What? Like, no.
So because the listeners can't see us, but because you're dehydrated, so it's said that your skin, if you pinch it, it's supposed to like
create
a dent.
Dent inside,
a dent on both sides, and that's supposed to be an identifier of who's fasting or not. So kids would do that,
pinch each other.
Yeah, like pinch each other. It's like, oh, you're not fasting. But it's interesting. And now, how is it for you?
Now I haven't fasted in years and years and years, like 15 years. I don't even know. Like, I haven't really fasted
as a statement.
I don't know about a statement. Like I stopped doing it in high school, just like everybody else, and I became like very like, you know, as a very young kid, like, you know, I was anti-religion, blah, 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 as a young rebel kid. The worst memory I ever have, maybe it's not the best thing to share on the pod, but it's unapologetic, so it's fine. It was when I was like still deep in that, you know, anti-religion mindset, which it's not the same anymore. I just learned to accept, you know, that we're different and each his own. But back then I was like, no, like this is again, like, you know, I took a very aggressive tone, I would say.
I hope this isn't going where it's going.
No, and I remember one time, that was a statement. Like we drove next to a mosque, and it was literally at a prayer time, like midday prayer or something, you know, super hot outside, and it's Ramadan, and like I just got back from, I was with my sister in the car, and I just got like, we went to McDonald's or something. And I made a point of drinking my milkshake in front of them while driving by. Like, and they all stared because it was in the village. So everybody, like, you know, they can tell the car.
Yeah, they know who it is.
So like, what the hell is he doing? Like drinking, like and staring at everybody while passing by. So that was like the lowest I've gotten, I would say.
Oh no, I would never. I was...
now I would never do that. Like, I can't believe that I did that back then, but yeah.
Kids, I don't know. I see it, like I hear a lot of things that resemble my brother and his attitude towards when he was younger towards
more resentment.
Yeah,
kind of.
it is like, this is suffering. Why are we not eating? And not seeing the actual like value. Again, if you choose, I know Islam is different from Muslims, and the what's it called, implementation of Islam and the beliefs is very human. And it's faulty, and it's like we see, it's like it can be racist, it can be sexist, it can be, but that says nothing about the religion. It says a lot about the religious, like we talked about. Just to go back about on what you asked me about the people fasting, I don't remember, even as growing up, didn't ever get to the point like, where you have a choice. I didn't like think or ever get to the conclusion where I had a choice in the matter of fasting or not fasting. I thought, this is what I must do and I have to do it. And it was the same, I guess, with my peers. I think the only difference is when someone is not fasting, they go over and beyond to keep it a secret.
Interesting.
Like kids, boys, teenagers, like teenage
in high
men.
School or
even in high school, yeah.
I
mean, I went to an only girls' school, but amongst my cousins, amongst like the other people that I know, friends, you can't say that you're not fasting. You can't. Like you can't, unless you catch someone who's not fasting, or they catch you that they're not fasting, and then you kind of like form an alliance. That's when you say that you're not fasting, only to that person. But you can't, like, if your mom or dad like find out that you're not fasting. I think like in Jerusalem, you said that we have this mindset, this stereotype that we're more like solid-headed or tough-headed or something. Remember you said that? When it comes to these kind of stuff, yeah, I think we are. Like we're very strict with applying things, specifically with Ramadan. Like you have to fast. Like what are you? How are you not fasting? And when I got introduced to 48 like Palestinians, I was like, oh my God. I remember it was like a course, and someone from up north was giving that course, and his name was Bassel, he boldly walked in with an XL in hand, and we were all like,
in the middle of Ramadan.
Yes, he was like teaching the class and was like, you're not fasting? And then I think it was also a type of like, it's my choice. And it was like, yeah, I'm not fasting. It's my choice. I don't want to fast. And we were all like, what the fuck? Yeah. I think it's the hardest thing for me not to swear. I'm so sorry. It's the hardest. It's my hardest thing throughout the whole Ramadan.
Like the fast breaks in like 5 minutes.
No, actually, bro, it's over. I'm going to go get my banana in a second.
Amira's been recording while fasting, so we have to say, so we're going to stop the recording right now and we'll continue so Amira can take a little bite to eat and a drink. But we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back after
a delicious banana.
Our good Muslim of the day, Amira, broke the fast. It's so upsetting in a way, because I wanted to.
I was so excited. Ibrahim was gonna fast with me. I was so excited.
But the religion does say that you cannot fast.
That's true.
when you're sick.
That is true.
I've been feeling a bit under the weather.
And you get the benefit of the intention that you wanted to fast.
Oh, wallahi, the intention was there, Amira.
You get the benefit of the intention. If you intended to fast, it's like you fasted.
Well, the intention was there.
Listen, in my books, you're fine. Even if you decide not to fast, in my books, you're fine.
God knows the intention was there. And it's funny, like it was the first time in years that I actually felt like the urge to do it.
Why?
I don't know. I think honestly because it was this weekend right before Ramadan. It was like one of the first times that I connected a bit culturally with some specific elements with my community, particularly from my mom's village in Tehran. My uncle, or my second uncle, he's my mom's cousin, but we were very, very close. Passed away in the weekend, and he like was truly an inspirational person in general. Like everybody loved him, and I guess that's my little tribute here for him. And he was religious, and like the family is religious. Like I'm very close to them. His son, who's one of my best friends today. Like like ever. We grew up together, and I always had that connection with them on their religious values, and like we kind of like each did his own thing in life.
Yeah.
But when we got back, and the funeral, the family, and all the extended family, and going to the mosque, and like I obviously, of course, I prayed, in the mosque with everyone on his soul when they brought him to the mosque. So it was me going to the mosque after a long time and actually like meaning it when praying. It did something. It sparked something in terms of like
It's interesting how death can take you so close to religion or faith or spirituality, or it can take you so far away.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I remember I had a classmate that we weren't, I won't say that we were best friends, but like she was a classmate. She was someone that I spent every single day with, either in the same room or chatting together or in the yard playing. And she passed away a year after we graduated. Wow. And I haven't seen her like anything, but just the idea of someone just not existing anymore kind of took me away, I think, from religion. It took me a step back. I still fasted. I stopped praying. And started looking at life in a different way, started like questioning a lot of things. It's like, oh my, like it's just shook. Exactly that. It's like just shook the building a lot. So I can understand how it can do the exact opposite also.
Yeah, I think like, kind of like the religious aspects connected with the cultural ones that I like cherished, and like, the family oriented thing about it, the care for the deceased, and I don't know, things just click together there, and you feel that you're part of something. You're part of like a group. You're part of like you're with your own people, and like in a very specific way, not just as individuals, but there's something that's like connecting us more than the normal day.
Yeah,
which Ramadan on its own wouldn't have done, but with a funeral connecting all of these things, it kind of like did something. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to like I and to do a fast as a tribute to my uncle, and hopefully I'll do that. There's a whole month, so there's still time. But yeah,
I'm happy. I'm excited for us fasting together. I talked to Ibrahim on the first day when he was like really sick, like you could hear it through the phone. He didn't come to work, and he was like a day before. You were like, yeah, we're going to go to Al-Aqsa, and we're going to spend the first day of Ramadan in Jerusalem. And I was like,
I was looking forward to it.
I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And I was like, okay, we'll go. And I got really excited for it. And then, unfortunately, but everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, 6 a.m. I send you guys a message. Listen.
I ain't coming.
I'm not coming to Jerusalem today.
We interrupt this episode to express our heartfelt gratitude to our supporters and our Patreon members. Without you, we wouldn't be where we are today. So this is a reminder that if you join our Patreon community, you will have access to exclusive content, and you will be the first to know when we have something going on in your city. So that is your reminder to join the Patreon, and you can do it with the link in our description. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it a lot.
But, talking about Jerusalem, I want to know, and from you, a bit more about, you talked a bit about your inner dynamic, within the school, within the family itself. But what's the general dynamic in Jerusalem in Ramadan? We know, obviously, of the political connotation of Ramadan, with, clashes that we've seen in the past couple of years during Ramadan.
Yeah.
A lot of politics come into play to the surface during that month, and a lot of challenges rise and stem from that. Can you share a little bit about that experience, that dynamic? Like, how are you growing up understanding that?
Okay. So this is my own take on it. Like, feel free to tell me your input for the audience to correct me. But or maybe it's because I was younger, but I noticed that because of like we said, Ramadan moves throughout the year. And when it does move, that means it might overlap with other religious holidays. And now, as a bystander looking up, it was like, oh, that's cute. Like you have Easter and Ramadan and what's it called? What other Jewish holiday?
Passover.
And Passover at the same time. Ain't that cute? It's like that's a recipe for disaster. It was supposed to be cute, but a lot of things that happen in Jerusalem when things escalate, like 2021, like the year, like last year, and every single year during Ramadan. Recently, it has been overlapping with many Jewish holidays, and I think that is one of the sources of it being so tense and charged, because you mix two religions, two holy days, with the same two people of these religions that are fighting of where the holy day is supposed to be held, which is Al-Aqsa, Temple Mount, Jerusalem in general. So, and there was also like a few years back, it was the flag march in Jerusalem Day.
So that's what I was thinking about. Is less like when you said it, it's such a good point that it's in the past few years, it's been around May, April.
Yeah.
But actually, you're mentioning the religious aspects, and the months actually connected to me on the political things. So we have the Jerusalem Flag March,
Yeah.
which like mainly a lot of the settler community does, which is like, a march around East Jerusalem waving flags that they took the East Jerusalem, and also Nakba Day,
Yeah.
Independence Day, Memorial Day. Like these are all political dates. I hope, let's just put it this way, I hope the reasonings are political more than just because we had Passover and Ramadan in the same period. Like,
well, it is political.
Because Passover, as Passover, I mean like on its own,
yeah,
and Ramadan on its own. Like I don't know how much that's the charge, but maybe it is because some people try to go to Temple Mount for like to sacrifice. But that's like, like
I'll give you my point. Like leave away, like I have many parts of my brain. One part is very like is a very realist, is very like critical. Religion is man-made. I can believe as much as I want. In my opinion, religion is man-made. Religion is a way, that doesn't mean that the beliefs are wrong. I'm not saying that there's not a God or anything. I'm saying, but religion either was made or is used to control people. So it is politics. Religion is politics. You can't separate the two. Whether in a democracy, a liberal, a dictatorship, religion is politics. It's a way to control people, to tell them that this is when you're going to buy and this is how much you're going to buy. This is the sale. This is where you're going to be at a specific time. Like it's all controlling the people and controlling the masses. Now, it makes sense. And then my spiritual part of my brain, which says, but it's Ramadan and like you believe and it's the holiest month for us. And also for like other religions, like this wanting, this feeling of wanting, it's kind of an ego, like this day is my day, this place is my place, and this place is for my God. So all of that, whether it's politics or whether it's not politics, it's a recipe for disaster in a way, when they overlap. And for Flag March and what's it called, the Flag March and Jerusalem Day, it might sound kind of fluffy and nice, but when you look at the politics of it alone, it's extremely like it's insightful. For, like we said,
Absolutely.
East Jerusalem is recognized to be occupied. It is occupied. It's part of the occupied Palestinian territories, even though that parts of the majority of East Jerusalem is inside of Israel. And for Israel, it's part of Israel. It's recognized to be annexed by Israel and a part of Israel. The capital of what's it called? The capital of Israel to Israelis is Jerusalem. All of this. So when you see like a march that's going to happen, whether inside during Ramadan or not during Ramadan, it's extremely insightful without them doing nothing. Now add to that any video, most of the videos that you see of settlers with flags at Damascus Gate or in the old city chanting horrific things like death to Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad was a pig, Prophet Muhammad, like cursing Muhammad is dead, like what else, death to Arabs, all of that is during flag march. It's during Jerusalem Day or flag march. And
putting that with Ramadan,
so put all the layers on top of each other, it's again a recipe for disaster. So and then you have, because of their presence there, what does the state want? Protection of its, call them whatever you want to call them, settlers, not settlers. I think when it comes to Jerusalem, there is a conversation to be had of what to call the people that reside in Jerusalem or in East Jerusalem specifically.
But definitely a lot of the people who come to these marches come from the actual settlement
yes, from the
communities,
actual settlement
not
communities.
like,
it's not like calling all Israelis settlers, but they lie under the actual international definition of what it is to be a settler. It's
like the kids of the youth of the hill and all these like these are the ones who are the main marchers at these march flag marches, and tend to be more radical, like you say, like cursing and saying horrific words. And all these things put together are a recipe for explosions.
And on top of that, because of their presence, and with the religious days for Ramadan, the presence of more police. And more I don't know, also army, and some, because it's East Jerusalem, so army also, that intensifies during Ramadan, and it has led to a pattern, I think. And I don't, maybe I was young and don't remember, but I don't remember Ramadan being like that previously. I think, like I said, I think it's because of the overlap of religious days coming. And then there's also like the concept of Ramadan is the holiest month, and during Ramadan, if you die, you go to heaven, basically. It's the holiest month. It's believed that the doors of heaven are open, and the what's it called, the shaitan, the demons or the devils are all locked up in hell, and hell's closed. So if you die during the month of Ramadan, that means it's a blessing. That means you go to heaven, like directly. Even if you were the worst human on earth, if you die during Ramadan and you're a Muslim, then you go to heaven.
So 80 years from now in Ramadan.
So that leads to the concept of shahada, the concept of being a martyr and dying in the name of basically God.
Religion.
Yes. And to clarify, being a shaheed, it's kind of like there's multiple definitions of being shaheed. A shaheed does not mean someone who kills a Jew. It does not mean someone who kills an Israeli. It does not mean someone who died in the name of killing people and forcing them to go to Islam, and he died in the result of that. It's like, we discussed this previously, and I think I have a different definition to shaheed than you do, but shaheed is someone basically who dies with no justice, whether that be like if you drown to death, you're suffering while you die, you're a shaheed. If you're sick, like my uncle died from cancer, and he suffered of cancer for 4 years before he died, so they called him a shaheed.
Oh, wow.
And if you burn to death, you're a shaheed. So there's different definitions of what a shaheed is.
Yeah. And the class, the one that the world knows is more of the religious activism, I would call it. Is dying, fighting for keeping the word of God alive, or protecting the word of God, protecting the religion, protecting Islam, and protecting God's work. Which becomes the more political terminology and more commonly known in Western world about what martyr is. But I think you are right on how it's definitely been in the past few years that it's been very prevalent that we have clashes in Ramadan. It wasn't exactly the same before. But there are other, like, there are a few also other reasons that I think like also add to the flame. I would say, like, outside of like, you know, all the things that we've already mentioned, there's also one key aspect of the politicization of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Definitely.
There is a politicization of what Al-Aqsa is, and taking Al-Aqsa Mosque as a political statement. By the way, it's done by both sides, right? Like over Temple Mount from the state, from Israel, and also like from the Palestinian Muslim community. It's the religious element, kind of like proving or emphasizing the national right. Like the existence of Al-Aqsa is an element of a Palestinian state, and an existence, or you know, an attempt for or reviving a temple, or like keeping Jewish religious practice in Temple Mount is like the other way around. So it's like it becomes a politically charged thing. And one of the things that I think it's also happening a lot in the past few years is using Al-Aqsa for the political element. And we saw it in May 2021. I mean, there are two folds of what happened a few years ago in one of the worst clashes we had internally in Israel, was during Ramadan. And honestly, we need a whole episode.
It began prior to Ramadan.
Exactly.
It intensified.
So we need a whole episode to talk about Sheikh Jarrah and what happened prior. We're not going to delve into the details of Sheikh Jarrah. We can talk about it in another episode with all the elements and who did what and who was where and all these things. But at the end of the day, the horrific mistake back then of the Supreme Court was trying to like make the decision over rights of ownership of certain houses in Sheikh Jarrah. The biggest mistake in my opinion, worse than the decision itself, is the execution of the decision.
Yeah.
They made the execution of the decision, or the announcement was like a week and a half before Ramadan.
Stupidest
and
thing.
It like flamed the streets. It was already tense back then, and it inflamed it even more. You know, we had protests in the north, massive protests in Haifa and other places. And then we had the buses that went to Jerusalem, and they were stopped midway. It was a famous picture of, you know, all these people who are fasting, and they're held on Route 6 on the main road by the police, investigating buses and like checking for people if they have like any, I don't know, like arms or something like that. So, but there are two like kind of like two folds around the problem of the escalation. One is the police, and from another friend, Naveen, a close friend of ours, who's also from East Jerusalem, was talking about her frustration with the police's understanding of how to deal with East Jerusalem. I think one of the biggest issues is the Israeli police's, I don't know if I want to call it lack of understanding or lack of willingness to understand how to deal with East Jerusalem, because East Jerusalem is such a tiny little place. There are not like parks everywhere. They're not places to go and to be. And East Jerusalem, all of it, for people who live in East Jerusalem, it feels like it's their backyard. And particularly when we talk about Damascus Gate, the entrance gate to East Jerusalem, it's like their people's backyard. That's their personal backyard.
Yeah. It's ours, you know. Like
it's mine.
The steps, like they're big
that's
steps
mine. Yeah.
where
it's
you
like
go and you sit. Like that's when there's like when what's it called during the Mondial.
The
like,
World Cup.
That's the World Cup. That's where everyone sat to
and
celebrate.
Watch the games. Yeah.
Everyone sat there.
And when that place is for everyone such like a personal place, it's for them, like you're saying, it's mine. And then you have police, you know, between every 3 people, there's 1 police officer. It creates tension already. Like without the presence of the police, there wouldn't be tugging between the young Jerusalemites and the police. But the sheer existence of the police there creates entanglement. Mm-hmm. And the youth, you know, like each one will like, you know, dare each other, and like, you know, there's all these things, and they're not happy about the police there, so they also try to like pick on the police. So it already is charged. And like Naveen said back then, it's like, why do they need to be there?
Exactly.
It's all Arabs. All Arabs alone. There are not any Jewish people in Damascus Gate in Ramadan. Like it's only them by themselves, celebrating after iftar. There's nowhere else to go in East Jerusalem after. Like that's the place to be.
I remember.
Let people be.
Exactly. I remember like talking to someone about this, about like what came first, the chicken or the egg, who intimidates, who incites who first. And I found myself like getting lost in this argument of no, our like Jerusalemites, we're not the people, we're not the ones who start the back and forth Tom and Jerry during Ramadan with the police. It's the police that incite. It's this and that. And then like very recently I was like, why the fuck are they there? There's no Jews there. There's no, like, even inside of Al-Aqsa, like, why the clashes inside of Al-Aqsa? Why the fuck are they there?
So on Al-Aqsa, physically, that's another like, challenge of like, should they even go in, right? Like it's and on the flip side is like, so that's the criticism on the police, because they shouldn't be there. They have enough like people who are standing on snipers on top of the gates. You don't need to be physically between each 2-3 people.
And why do you increase the presence of police?
It creates tension
during Ramadan. Why?
It creates tension. Just your presence creates tension, and their lack of understanding to that is like unbelievable. On the flip side of it, the other criticism is for
the
people
Jerusalemites,
who are
or Palestinians, because it's not just Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's just people who have used and politicized Al-Aqsa not only just as a political symbol, it's a political base. So when we had clashes in May in 2021, one of the things that were there is a bunch of like stones and rocks and God knows what that people took inside to the mosque.
Last year there were fireworks.
And fireworks. And they threw them from inside the mosque outside, like from above the gate towards the street, towards the Jewish side of it. And I'm like...
Towards the Western Wall.
Yeah, towards the Western Wall. And...
then I can understand.
How can you expect, regardless of the police should get in or not, how can you use such a holy place as a kind of like a militant base, like to do these things, bringing fireworks and rocks and stones to your most holy place in this land for you? Really, like that breaks my heart to see that people gone to that place, that the mosque is being used to that place.
So then what should be done? Like I feel like I understand kind of both sides, like both arguments of, okay, they shouldn't be there, and then but there is criticism of the Palestinians that politicize Al-Aqsa and use it as a base, as you said. So is it justified for increasing number of police? Is the police brutality justified? What comes first? Are they arming up because of the presence of the police? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like all these things are intertwined, and it just a much calmer dealing with Jerusalem in Ramadan is needed. And it feels so charged, and like there's a charge that's even like politicized by the government, by Ben-Gvir didn't want people to pray in Al-Aqsa. He tried to limit the amount of people going to pray, and that adds to the flame. And then some people feel like it's their kind of like their personal duty to like protect Al-Aqsa, because there's like the famous slogan, Al-Aqsa fi khatar, Al-Aqsa is in danger, which is something that's been told to Palestinians for generations now, that Al-Aqsa will collapse tomorrow morning and Israel will build a temple on top of it. We need to protect it. And in any way...
The fear is that they're going to storm it and settle, and then they're going to demolish it and build a temple in front of it. And this is a legit fear that exists in people's hearts.
It's a real fear.
Yeah. And this is a legit fear.
And it mobilizes people. And when you say that to people, and with the police's existence, with all these things... people believe it and they take action, and they take, unfortunately, violent action.
And then anyone who isn't religious, and I don't think East Jerusalem isn't religious, like it's traditional, it's very conservative, but it's not a religious spirit. I think it develops and in people's hearts, but then it is lost. But it's mostly like you said, the sense of duty. Like everyone talks about Jerusalemites, everyone talks about Al-Aqsa. I have to do something. Yep. I have to do something, and that translates unfortunately, in the terminology of religion, because of the politicization of Al-Aqsa and the entire Palestinian cause as an Islamic cause.
Exactly.
And then you have people who wouldn't necessarily go to Al-Aqsa and wouldn't necessarily be there, go there specifically to like do their duty.
And to, exactly. And that's where the question is, what's the role of the people? Like, every time I go to Al-Aqsa, I get checked. Like, how are people were able to smuggle in stones and fireworks?
You don't get checked.
Of course.
No, you don't get checked.
Like, listen, if I'm walking with a backpack, of course they're going to ask me.
No, I've entered multiple. They ask you if you're Muslim or not. ID, yes.
The Israeli police ask me for ID and all these things.
It depends on when.
And then
was it a Friday?
No. And the Waqf asks you, like, the Jordanian Waqf was in charge of Al-Aqsa.
So it depends. Sometimes the Israeli forces that are there alongside Al-Waqf, which is the Jordanian police.
Yeah, it's a Jordanian security
that protects
the
Al-Aqsa.
Religious security of Al-Aqsa.
Sometimes the Israelis don't say anything. Like if it's calm, if it's in the middle of the day, in the middle of a weekday where Al-Aqsa is basically empty and it's just tourists going in, because now there's a specific, I don't know about now, but there used to be a specific time slot for tourists to come in. They don't ask anything. It's actually the Waqf. It's actually the Jordanians that tell you. I was in a hijab. And I went there and it was like, are you Muslim? And I was like, no, I'm just pretending. It's like, no, I'm wearing a hijab. I want to enter. And some people, remember we were talking to our friend and he was like, I was asked to recite one of the surahs, one of the verses, and he recited the first one and the second one, and then they named something that he didn't know, and he was like, I don't know it. I'm not Muslim enough because I don't know it, and like it's that. But I've never been like I don't.
For me, maybe as a guy,
I'm sure.
They check the ID and all these things. So like, how are all these guys getting in and bringing fireworks? Like, are you kidding me? Like it needs to be like managed. And
remember there was the thing, I don't remember what year, but there was the thing where Israel wanted to put up metal detector, like the metal thing.
Yeah. It was in 2016. We had the metal detectors that they were imposed.
Yeah.
I think that's the
keyword.
The keyword is, at least for my hope, to prevent, people who are, going to Al-Aqsa to make riots, is to take personal responsibility. The religious leadership, the Waqf, like other factors that are, the Muslim factors that would prevent the usage of Al-Aqsa Mosque as a political base or as a base of, starting riots. There are women there, there are young children, like, it should not be the place where clashes start. So hopefully that will be the place that it can stem from. And at the same time, like you mentioned, is the issue of the incitement of pushing people to like kind of like egging people with the presence of police and all these things. It's kind of like, enforcing that, look at them. They're, and it actually reminds me of something that you said in the past, about how for you it's more about the army is there to not to protect you, but to protect from you in a way. And that's the feeling that there is when we talk about the police presence in the Damascus Gate. Like, okay, why are you there? Like, why are you here?
Yeah,
we're all Arabs. We're all known. Like, we don't need protection unless you have a sense of you need to protect others from us. Because we're not doing anything to each other. Yeah. Like, it's all us around each other. We're all from the same people. Like, and it just like reminded me of that. Like, yeah. So hopefully.
Do you know what they did once? What's it called? The Israeli forces, what they did once, which was actually one time where it was like, okay, that was kind of like a solution. So for the lack of another word, the troublemakers, the Palestinian troublemakers that came and with all their macho of rocks and whatever, it was a few years ago, like I think 2 or 3 years ago, and they were in Al-Aqsa, and instead of the Israeli forces going inside of Al-Aqsa, they locked them inside, and they left, and nothing happened. So it's kind of an example, and to compare to last year where they came inside and there was fireworks everywhere, they beat the women inside. And it just compares
They ruined the carpets.
They ruined the carpets. Al-Aqsa, the windows were broken and everything. Like there was actual tadnis, like we talk about spoiling and actually ruining Al-Aqsa. That actually happens. But now it's kind of like it's kind of like the quote of when you have so much power, that means you have so much responsibility as well.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man.
Come on.
So with Israel, yes, the Palestinians are at fault here in this scenario. The Palestinian troublemakers, not to specific, that there are malintentioned people on both sides. In this scenario, it's the Palestinian troublemakers that come with fireworks, that come with arms, any type of arms, that come with like rocks and go into Al-Aqsa. You have, as the Israeli forces, have the responsibility to think, how am I going to maintain the situation while teaching like kind of a lesson without making it spread and inflame it, not just the day of, but the rest of the month. How am I going to do that? That is Israel's responsibility, in my opinion.
It's the police, yeah.
What actions am I going to take to contain this, so it doesn't escalate, so it doesn't inflame, like you said. And they did it once when they locked them inside of Al-Aqsa, and they kept the troublemakers inside, and they didn't do anything, and that was the end of the story. In comparison, like I said, to last year.
Yeah, but also I think last year, like they also, like the troublemakers, like added another layer of throwing from over the Western Wall and all these things. So it's like, there's no perfect answers.
No.
But, there's so many things that can be done, like to diffuse the tension on the streets, diffuse the tension. When you talk about whether or not people can go to Al-Aqsa, you're already inciting.
Yeah.
It's already putting a stress and pressure.
Why should there be a limit to how many people enter Al-Aqsa, or an age limit or something?
So that's already creating that tension. Adding to that, adding police, adding to that, the young who are pushing others to do violent things. Like all these things together are a recipe for disaster. And we know that the one spark, I would say, that can ignite this whole area is Al-Aqsa.
Yeah.
So there's so many other things that happened throughout the years that didn't create massive riots. I'll remind you, for instance, once when the embassy was transferred from the American embassy to Jerusalem,
under the Trump administration,
I was like, okay, shit's gonna hit the fan.
It's Intifada 3.
Nothing happened.
Nothing.
Literally nothing. Like the streets of Ramallah were empty that day. I remember that day because I looked it up and tried to see what's happening. Nothing happened.
No one did anything.
So many other things happened that didn't create the magnitude and the impact that anything in Al-Aqsa does.
Even during the Sheikh Jarrah in 2021, it was like it started with the name of Sheikh Jarrah, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as it touched Al-Aqsa, as soon as things started to be politicized of Al-Aqsa, that's when the riots all over Israel happened inside of the West Bank, and then escalations with Hamas.
Exactly. Al-Aqsa is the fuel.
Yeah.
Other things can happen and it won't ignite like Al-Aqsa would. And so it needs to be, dealt with very, very carefully from all sides.
Yeah. And the question remains, why is the police there? And what should be done to contain the situation when it does happen?
Yeah, and it's a challenge. And we have a whole month ahead of us. And we hope that it will pass quietly.
I think it's important to mention that we are recording this on the 12th of March, the second day of Ramadan. and to emphasize that we still haven't seen anything major happen. We've seen some tiny clashes between Palestinians and the Israeli forces. But again, we still haven't seen the first Friday of Ramadan. Now, Friday, the same as Ramadan is so holy, Friday generally in a week is kind of like the rest day. It's the day where it's actually kind of obligatory by religion, by Islam, for the males to go pray, not at home, to pray at the nearest mosque or Al-Aqsa if they can. So there's also that pressure of Friday being like, oh, it's Al-Jum'ah, it's Friday.
The magnitude of people come on Friday.
Yeah.
So
and
there's
also
and
more
hundreds and like it gets to hundreds of thousands.
And more permits for the West Bank are given by Israel. So there's a magnitude of people there. So inshallah, we won't see what people, us included, are anticipating to happen during Ramadan, because there's a lot of talk about, it's going to go down during Ramadan. So we hope it's not going to be the case. And yeah, I guess, do we have anything else to add?
Just, seeing the news in the past couple of days that, the U.S. is pressuring Israel to bring in a lot of the wheat that arrived to the port in Israel. Now it's like pressured by the U.S. to bring it into Gaza, and
and there was also
the reports. And there's also been dropping humanitarian aid by
Jordan. Who else from the Arab countries?
It's a few countries actually that collaborated.
The U.S. also sent. I think the problem with them is, one, they're not enough. Two, a lot of it ended up going to the sea. And three, it's dangerous. Like, it killed a few people. That dropped on a few people. So even though, yes, it's long overdue. It's an innovative idea, but again, long overdue. Not the most ideal situation. Why can't the aid just go in? Which is a question for both Egypt and Israel.
But the wheat hopefully will
Inshallah.
be coming in, and the people of Gaza who are fasting in such a horrific condition are able to also break the fast in dignity, and have a warm,
have something to break the fast with.
A warm iftar, and hopefully this month can bring blessings to the people of Gaza, and maybe to see an end to this whole madness in such a holy month.
And with the spirit of Ramadan, we wish again a Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak to everyone, all our listeners, Muslim or not, fasting or not, to have a blessed and meaningful month. And may we see actual blessings happen on the ground. May we see the release of the hostages safely and alive. May we see a complete bilateral or trilateral with Hezbollah ceasefire. And
the clashes are intensifying now in the north.
Yeah, that gives me, I don't know how I sleep at night with that.
We'll talk about it in another episode in the future for sure.
And may we see the end of the suffering for our brothers and sisters in Gaza.
Amen to all of that.
Because at the end of the day,
we all deserve better.